afternoon, everybody. I am Bert Eyler. This is the Police Officers Defense Coalition TV Hill Report. I am here with my co-host, Jim Fotis, the Vice President.
Hello,
how you doing
everyone.
today?
I'm doing very good, Bert. You look very good today, and I know
Thank
you've
you very
been working
much.
very hard up on the hill.
Oh, very much so up on the hill. So how was your trip? I know you were on your way back to Tennessee over the holiday break. How'd that go?
It was a very long trip, but once we got here, we were very happy to end the drive. It took 15-hour drive. We drove straight through from Florida. A lot of accidents along the highway, and when we got here, we found 4 cows grazing on our lawn. So we thought that was interesting, and my wife was afraid one was a bull, so she was a little nervous, but I didn't think we were too worried about anybody attacking us. All they wanted to do was eat. And then finally a farmer next door picked them up.
Hey, you got free lawn service, right?
That's right.
Enough, you won't have to mow your grass. So, well, that's good.
So I figured if they stayed longer, we'd have free beef for a year.
You might have that. Maybe he'll come calling and saying, "Hey, would you like some?" So,
right.
Well, today is for everybody. In the last couple of weeks, we were not up on the Hill. We had Memorial Weekend, and the members of Congress were out of session. They'll be coming back this week. I'll be up on the Hill starting tomorrow. I have some meetings up there. But I think one thing with all the issues with ICE and the violence towards law enforcement, Jim, I want to talk a little bit about qualified immunity. We're pushing that really hard to get passed into law. And I just noticed that was interesting, some research on the ACLU vigorously fighting against qualified immunity. Do you have any thoughts on that, on why they would be doing that?
I mean, the ACLU is a strange group. They'll fight for something that we may think is really good. I know during the Bush administration, they were fighting right alongside of us, which I thought was an infringement on our rights, so that they were able to, that the NSA was able to listen into our phone conversations for security during that particular time. And now the ACLU is fighting against the passage of qualified immunity because they believe that it's a unlawful shield for police officers to get away with doing illegal things and illegal activity, but it's not. It protects police officers and it protects other public officials. And we had mentioned before, Bert, they're cutting out just a piece of qualified immunity, which protects police officers, but yet other public officials are still protected. So what is the logic in that? Do you see that there's logic? I believe that if it came to the Supreme Court, it would still be upheld, and we did have a case where it was just upheld.
I think what you get is money, because look at the lawsuits that you have. I think the driving force a lot of times is money with some of these attorneys. Let's sue them, right? I mean, like we all know, qualified immunity is very important, because if you don't have it as officers, like I'm speaking as, retired, you've been retired. I mean, qualified immunity in a nutshell is, you make judgment calls. Was there clearly established constitutional law or civil rights violations at that time? And I really believe with a split second decision, there's not. You're making that split second decision, right? You make the decision, you go forward. But when there is clearly established, that to me is saying that officer knew exactly what he was doing, and he or she knew what he was doing was wrong. They should be held accountable. I'm all for that. But when you're making a split second decision, somebody going for a waistband and coming out, with sometimes a cell phone, and the officer shoots and kills them, and then all of a sudden they're saying, well, he shouldn't have qualified immunity. Well, that's your training, because if you don't react, you could be killed. It's telling me without qualified immunity, you're telling everybody is like, hey, you got to be shot at first. But there's times where people have been shot at and they've still been sued. So, I think we got to get this passed. I think it will help codify the courts to decide, and there's really not a lot of wiggle room, Jim. Here's what it says. You do the job the way you've been trained. You made a split-second decision. Would a reasonable and prudent officer make the same decision? If that's so, you should be covered, and you move on. But because I think without it, I think a lot of these officers are not making the proper judgment call because they're afraid of getting sued civilly and criminal, being taken to court criminally. I think that's another big issue.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, Bert, and I believe we spoke about the incident in Connecticut where the individual had a axe and he was going after people, and nobody was going to move and take that guy out. And finally, a police officer did, and of course now he's charged. And another thing that really I find this, and this would be certainly a sticking point in the future. There is a state that wants to pass a law that you can use deadly physical force to stop an abortion in progress. Now, this is going to probably go to the Supreme Court if it passes in that state. What is this going to do to police officers? Where is qualified immunity going to fall in place in this? This is putting such strain. Police officers already have incredible strain on them. Just think of a law like this, what it would do to police officers if they arrived at that scene.
Yeah, that's unthinkable. I don't have anything to say on that one. I have no idea. I mean, that's wow. I mean, I have no idea. I mean, that's crazy. And looking back just on what you were saying, and just in general, is getting back to, and it looks like it's starting back up again with some of these, some of the stuff on TV with the protests and everything. Is when is the rhetoric going to stop on, the far left or how everybody's approaching it? It's just not in general, because you're villainizing law enforcement, and these leaders are giving, in my opinion, the power to these protesters and people that don't like police to assault them and kill them in some incidents, because of they're giving them the power. Like, don't listen to the police are bad. And what's going to happen? It's going to be ongoing, and that's why we're fighting on the Hill to get some of these bills passed. And without them, and without the support, it's going to go downhill. And that's, to me, one of the issues about the recruitment is who's really going to want to get into law enforcement anymore if no one has their back to do their job.
That's right. I mean, we've seen, and you and I have studied looking at departments and looking at qualifications, that departments are lowering the qualifications and standards for people to get on, that it's becoming easier and easier for less qualified people to become police officers. And that actually jeopardizes the people that are going on the job, or the individuals that are becoming police officers, because if they're getting less training and situations where they may have to make a decision, and it could be a qualified immunity decision, it will cost them their life because they cannot make a decision. And being a police officer, you should never be in that position. You should be in the position that you know your job, you know that you're protected, and you should go in and do what you have to do to follow the law and make sure that you're always know the law, follow the law, but do what you're doing that's right for the people that you represent.
That's correct. And that's why, with when we're talking about retention, we have the new law, or sorry, not new law, but new legislation, Fuel Your Force Act, which we're trying to help get passed for retention. That is, I think, will be a big one. And that is, if you've been an officer for 5 or more years, your first 100,000 of your base pay is federally tax exempt to try and keep that retention. We also just came across a new bill, the Training Rural Law Enforcement Act, that's providing funding for nonprofit organizations to provide training for departments that are 50 sorry, excuse me, 50 person sworn department or lower, to provide them free training, which I think will be really big. We're going to talk a little bit more about that on our next episode next week. Just came up with this information and doing some research. So we want to do a little more research on the bill, but I think that's going to be a really good bill. We have to figure out ways to keep law enforcement, keep law enforcement going and build up the professionalism, bringing back that professionalism. And I think moving forward, it's going to be that much more important to get the community involved, because without good quality law enforcement, your community suffers. You end up with high crime, people are unsafe. And then what do they start to do? Move. So now your city is full of crime because everybody has left.
That's right. And that's what happened years ago. People would pick up, leave, abandon a whole block in New York or whatever large city and move to the suburbs because they were afraid of crime. And I've heard people in New York right now, they're moving from New York City to Florida because of the difference in the policing. They feel more protected. And right now in New York, the New York City Police Department is definitely has their hands tied. And I heard a very interesting, and it was actually said by the governor of New Jersey. I don't think she thought about how she was saying it, but I believe that what you said is correct. Dealing with the ICE facility, that the people that should be out there protecting it and dealing with all of the protesters are the New Jersey state troopers and the New Jersey police, not ICE. ICE are inside the facility. The New Jersey police, they are certified. They should be out there doing the job and not being held back by the governor, who said that they should be doing the job today.
Yeah, you're right. I think misinformation is what the far left is very, very good at, right? Why can't state, federal, and local law enforcement agency work together to stop the crime? Isn't that what we want to do? I mean, you take New York and look, the new mayor of New York and everything that he's doing, he's pushing everybody out. I mean, they're leaving in droves. You want to have everything free. You can't do it. So I don't know what the fix is. I mean, well, yeah, the fix is let's get some competent and common sense people in office.
I mean, the governor is, I guess, the highest authority in the state. And I know those cops, every state cop, every city cop is there, and they want to get in there and help those ICE police. And they can't because they'll get fired. And that is wrong.
I agree. And at what point do the officers just say, you know what, screw it, I'm going to go help? But you're right. If they do go help, what happens? They're not covered by anything. They get fired.
Yeah.
They lose their pension. They lose everything. And then what do they have? So the decision is doing the right thing or helping out or losing everything. That
Exactly.
is a decision I would never want to have as a police officer. I want to be able to go out and do my job. Let us do our job. If we do it successfully, your city or community is going to be a lot safer.
Exactly.
So,
I I think we've hit on a lot today, a lot of very important topics, Bert.
yeah, you're right, Jim, and I appreciate your time and everybody else's time. This is bringing our episode to the close. I am Bert Eyler. This is Police Officers Defense Coalition TV Hill Report, where we bring the Hill to you. Until next time, God bless.
God bless and God bless America.